Today, as part of NHS Week, we're going to find out more about social care to see what's working and what isn't. Last year, the British Medical Association warned that we are facing a ticking time bomb. That's the worst kind of time bomb, one that's ticking. In the sector, as chronic underfunding, severe staffing shortages and a growing elderly population means that many in the future will not get the care and support that they need. In a moment, we'll speak to Dan Archer from Visiting Angels. They provide home care. But first, let's hear from one of their workers, Katie Musbred, who recorded an audio diary on Saturday for us.
Hi, my name's Katie and I'm a caregiver for Visiting Angels. I've worked with them now for just over 2 years and can honestly say this is the hardest but most rewarding job I have ever had. Well, it's 6:30 in the morning. I'm just sat in my car waiting for the windscreens to clear. I'm going to see Eileen this morning at Loxley. It's 8 a.m. I've just finished with Eileen. I helped her to get washed and dressed, made her a breakfast, and I've given her a medication. I'm now off to my next client, Sonia, at Ranmore. It's a 3-hour visit for my next call, and it's to help her with a breakfast, get her a medication, and assist her with some housework, and for some companionship. I've just finished with Sonia at Ranmore and I'm going over to do an hour's call with Brenda at Handsworth. I have got a break after Brenda, so I'll get to go home for a bit of dinner and to see my 2 boys and husband. It's 2 p.m. I've had my break and managed to see my family for an hour. I'm just about to go into Margaret's house at Hackenthorpe. Hers is a 3-hour call and I tend to do her nails, her hair. We have a little bit of a pamper session for some companionship while her husband has some well-deserved respite. After Margaret, I'll be back over at Norton to see Betty to do her tea call, and then it will be going on to do my bedtime calls. I've just finished Margaret's bedtime call. It's just before 9 o'clock in the evening. It's my second call with Margaret today. I did a sit with her earlier. Then I went over and did an hour's tea call with Betty at Norton. Started my bed calls at 7:30 over with Lucy at Kiverton Park, and then came over here to Margaret for her hour's call. I'm just on my way now to my last call, which is over with Jackie at Norton, and it's her bed call as well. I have just pulled up onto my driveway. It's 10:15 at night. I've just done my last call with Jackie over at Norton. It was her bedtime call for the last parts of her medication, to get her settled in bed, to make sure that she's got everything that she needs for through the night, and to make sure that she's warm, because it's showing a -1 on my car tonight. So I am going to get my windscreen cover on so that I don't have to de-ice my car in the morning, because I've got another early start, leaving here at 6:30. So I'm going to go into the house now and have a shower and go to bed.
Well, that's Katie, who works for Visiting Angels. The MD, Dan Archer, is in the studio with me now. Listening to that, it sounds like a long day. It sounds like hard work, and indeed, Katie says it's the hardest job she's ever had. She also says it's the most rewarding job that she's ever had. What's it like to be a care worker, Dan?
Morning, Toby. Thank you for inviting me on. Well, I mean, I would absolutely say that Katie's day was a long day, but Katie's day is not reflective of the day that most care workers do. So Katie was doing 1-hour shifts, she was doing 3-hour shifts. She's seeing the same clients every time she goes out. She's getting paid for her time in between her visits. That's not what most carers face. So it's an almost impossible job for most carers, because they've got not enough time. 15 minutes, half an hour to do a call. They're driving to somewhere else, not getting paid for that time. They're only starting on minimum wage. So when you take out the driving that they're doing and not getting paid for, it's no wonder people don't want to do that. So we've got a shortage in this sector of 160,000 vacancies in adult social care. I think I heard on your piece yesterday, 12,000 vacancies in South Yorkshire. That's because the job most carers are being asked to do is an impossible job. It's not an attractive job.
So a carer will, let's say carer, for the sake of it, let's say minimum wage is £10 an hour, just ease.
Yeah.
So they're on £10 an hour. If they go to spend half an hour with a client, do they then get a fiver for that half hour? And then nothing for the drive time?
Spot on. So the thing that Visiting Angels does differently is we say when you're working, driving around the place, you're getting paid for that. So we're paying for the time they're in with the client. We're also paying for the time they're driving the car. There'll be carers listening to this morning, driving around to see people this morning, not getting paid for driving between those visits. Now, the thing is, if you're doing 2-hour calls, you have less driving to do. Most care's done in 15-minute blocks. So a 6-hour working day of 15-minute blocks is 24 calls a day. If there's only 5 minutes between them calls, that's 2 hours of unpaid driving most carers are doing, yeah? And everybody says, well, there's a shortage of carers. If you're asking someone to do work for less than minimum wage on a 0-hour contract with hardly any thanks and no time to do the work, of course there's a shortage of people that want to do that. So what we say is, well, proper contracts, so we have proper contracts, not 0-hour contracts. But, Katie's circa £12 an hour. We've got people earning £13, £14 an hour. We're paying for drive time. We guarantee a pay increase each year. We look after people. We say thank you a lot, and there's an awful lot about appreciation. But also my carers, when they're caring, have got a minimum 1-hour visit, so they're not rushing around the place. They've got enough time to actually care. Yeah, and in the sector as a whole, that's not what goes on,
So can I ask them then, how come you can do that and other people can't?
Well, we choose not to do the work that doesn't pay enough to be able to do that, Toby. That's the problem. All these issues come back to funding, right? We could maybe ask the chairman of the Conservative Party where he could find a few million quid. But, the problem in the middle of all of this is, look, if Sheffield City Council are not paying enough for the care that's delivered, right, if the NHS are not paying enough for the care that's delivered, if as a society we're all not paying enough tax into the pot to enable care to be funded better, in the absence of all of those things, carers are the ones subsidising the calls. Yeah, because a carer is the one doing unpaid work. A carer is the one getting paid 15 pence a mile when everyone's fuel's costing them more than that.
So if I can then, just so that I know, so the reason that they don't get paid for the drive time is that people at the top end, the councils and the NHS, don't fund that. Yeah,
there's a problem with the councils not paying enough to the providers that are doing that work, right? So there's a problem with the providers working for a rate that doesn't enable them to pay their staff, because, the employers in this situation are care providers. Not the council, yeah? Now, every care provider's got the same choice I made. When I started the company, I looked at this, I thought, well, the problem here is carers don't get enough appreciation. They don't get looked after well enough, yeah? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay people properly. I'm going to look after people well. I'm going to reward people for loyalty. Now, we find it easier to find people because of that.
And keep people.
Absolutely right, yeah. Katie's been with us 2 years. We've got people who've been with us since we started, sort of 5 years ago. In that video, that audio clip, that you guys have played this morning, one of those clients, Sonia, her regular carer does her daytime shifts, has been with us for 5 years and has been seeing Sonia for 5 years, right? Then you get a relationship. Then you get better quality care, yeah? But funding is the biggest issue in the middle of this. And there are also, unfortunately, there are people paying privately for care, and because the money that's coming on council contracts isn't giving enough to the care provider, those private individuals are actually subsidising that council contract. And again, that's like you going to Tesco's and I come in behind you. My shopping's 20 quid cheaper because yours is more expensive. If you knew about it, you wouldn't do that. But people don't know about it, yeah? So there's a big conversation here, but ultimately it's coming back to funding. It's coming back to how care is bought. That's the biggest issue.
I wonder why we don't take it seriously. I wonder if it's because the people to whom it relates don't really have the voice. I've got a voice now because I'm 53 and I've got ready. Maybe when I'm 90 and need this care, maybe I won't have that voice.
Biggest challenge we've got as a society, we're rubbish at talking about later life. We genuinely are. I'm nudging 50 myself, Toby, so I understand where you're at, right? And in my 30s, my 40s, I wasn't thinking about what's going to go on in later life. So what we do is we sort of move towards later life, not thinking about it, and then something happens, we have a fall, we go to hospital for a period of time, we have some medication that we didn't have to use to deal with, and we need a bit of help and support. But because no one's had a conversation early enough about it, it becomes an emergency thing. So then we're rushing around, trying to find what we can do about it, yeah? So if we were all thinking and talking a bit more about later life earlier on, that'd help. I guess ultimately, if the politicians who are responsible for making decisions around this were also of an age where they'd actually be impacted by it, they might put a bit more effort into it.
I often worry and realise that we have to be careful when we sit and we kind of catastrophise about stuff like this on the radio. This is knackered, that's knackered, this is broken, that's broken. But is the care system, A, is it broken, but B, is it fixable?
Yeah, it's absolutely fixable. My organisation's evidence of the fact it's fixable, right? Because when I started, I looked at 50 care businesses, researched them, looked at what they stood for, looked at how they operated, realised that all of them were talking about clients and care delivery. No one was talking about carers. And I thought, that's mad, because care businesses don't provide care. Carers do. Care business's job is to look after its carers, right? So that's what we set out to do. So doing what we do, as I say, visiting angels, we're paying people better, we're giving them proper contracts, we're paying them for travel time, we're rewarding them for loyalty. Across the country, and I've got 35 offices across the country now, we recruited 107 carers last month. We can find people, because what we're trying to do is look after people a bit better, yeah? The sector as a whole, unfortunately, doesn't do what we do. And honestly, I've spent the last 5 years nervously looking over my shoulder thinking, eventually my competition's going to realise that all I'm doing is being nice to me carers, right? But they just don't do it, And as I say, if you stop and do that, it is fixable. I believe genuinely the crisis in social care is fixable, but we fix it one carer at a time. Because if I love a carer a bit better and they can support 2 or 3 clients a bit better, the aggregate effect of that is that we make a difference.
Like every great idea, it's a simple one.
Yeah, absolutely.
To be fair, isn't it?
But people think I'm bonkers, right? So we've always done family events for the carers to look after them, right? So we have a Christmas party, we have an Easter egg hunt. We used to have a barbecue in front of our office in Chapeltown where I was like burning sausages and trying not to give people food poisoning, right? Yeah. We come out of the lockdowns, I was like, right, I want to do it properly. I organised the music festival. Call it Carefest.
Yeah.
So just after tramlines every year, so the Monday after tramlines every year, 4 live bands, hog roast, beer tent, gin tent, ice cream van, face painting for the kids, to look after the staff, to say to my staff, thank you, I know you work really hard, to say to my staff's family, thank you for lending your mum, your sister to us to do some work. We need to show you how much we appreciate them, But people think I'm crazy.
Makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense to me. And I'm sure to a lot of people out there listening to this. Thanks very much indeed for coming in, Dan. Much appreciated.
Toby, thank you very much for having me.